Trying to plug my phone in. How's the volume? Little soft. Well, this is awkward. I just wanted to test live out because last night I was on Recovery Addict stream and some people said I should try, so I thought I'd give it a shot. The main thing is time zones, so I figured I'd wait until the afternoon. It's about 4 p.m. here. Oh, yay, there's people joining. Let me know if you're here because I don't want to just sit and talk to myself, like presuming. Trying to make my hair curl because it needs a cut and it's not curling anymore. And everything is mirrored on YouTube streams. I also messed up the first one because I was trying to use like software to stream so that I could use my camera and I couldn't figure it out. So, hey, Steve, welcome. You're literally the only person here right now. I was trying to use a software and I clicked the wrong thing. And so the stream landed up having no camera. So I ended it in like 10 seconds because I couldn't figure out how to actually like get it to change cameras once I'm in the stream. But this will all be learning curves, I guess. So also it's 4:05 here. But it's a cloudy day, so it's really dark and dreary. Steve, I don't know if you saw the interview with News Nation about the AZ trial. The first thing that the presenter said was that this lawyer believes that Kelly's going to be guilty, and the lawyer went on to say, what was his exact wording? With the mountain of evidence in this case, I don't see how he wouldn't be convicted. And I was like, can you show me what mountain you looked at? Because I'm seeing a border-sized wall, and it's not very big. It's circumstantial. Steve, what's the time where you are? Yeah, a mountain of evidence. The comments were all like, Clearly, this guy hasn't watched the trial. Oh, so maybe 4 p.m. is a bit early for a Saturday. 9 is not a normal time to be awake on a Saturday morning. Yeah, he said there was a mountain of evidence and you can't shoot in self-defense 100 feet away because you're not an imminent threat. You're not, yeah. So if by that logic, then Mr. Kelly wouldn't be a threat to the victim either, right? Like, if a gun logically cannot travel that far, then the only thing I can think of is it wasn't him. Whichever way you look at it, there's literally no way to see it that works out. I think this trial might be the one that makes people realize that our non-jury system might be a good thing. Exactly. It had to have been Sunny. I think Daniel is shadier, but there's something not adding up. And I don't think a person looking for a better life that has existing drug charges is just trying to find a better life, you know? Hey, 6-volt bus. So the horse, was the horse shot? Was the horse not shot? Because nobody seems to be able to figure out where the horse fits in, besides the fact that a horse is 2.5 meters. Not shot. The horse wasn't shot. So then there is absolutely no way that matches up. I cannot, it doesn't. And I'm generally one of the minority. Like, I was all for Jennifer Crumbly being guilty, and I had to fight for my life. But horse was near Gabriel and Daniel, according to Daniel's testimony. Okay, but according to Daniel's testimony, there were also pine trees. So there couldn't be pine trees and the horse. I think the shot that Kelly heard was Gabriel being shot. I don't think it was someone else. I mean, yeah, I think that's what they heard. That's the only thing I can put together. So, Steve, I actually didn't listen to his testimony. I wasn't going to follow it because I was really concerned with if I was going to get upset and chat because of like undertones and whatnot. So in the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm going to skip out on this one. And then I think when Apple River ended, then Recovery Addict went back and there was a little bit of spice between the lawyers. And I was like, okay, well, people seem to be doing okay with not like labeling anyone a certain way. Because the first day was like the conversation about aliens, and I can't handle that. So I didn't watch the beginning parts. And I sometimes think to myself, like, oh, maybe I must go back and find the start of the whole thing. But then I like once the trial's done, for me, that's like case closed, you know? I've literally got all of Recovery Addict's mods in here. You guys are so sweet. It asked me if I wanted mods, and I was like, no, you know what? I'm just gonna give it a shot by myself. There's a little Vaughn peek. Hey, James. Yeah, I literally have like no plans for the stream. I just thought I'd set it up, give it a shot, see how it goes. Oops. Shake the camera. At least there is a camera. Okay, so since there's more people here, I just want to go back to the News Nation interview. I was initially going to try and there's ways you can get around being struck, right? So I thought I was potentially going to try and do that. And then I realized that if I have a problem on my very first live with YouTube, it's probably going to impact everyone after that. because I work for a true crime YouTube channel, so I know the kinds of things that get struck. So I decided not to go for that. But essentially, they had a um, defense attorney on who said that he thinks that Kelly is guilty, and with the mountain of evidence, it's so obvious to him. I don't understand what his mountain is. I haven't seen a mountain of evidence. I I did wrap my head around how it would go from his back in, right? Like, I don't want to be too descriptive, but leaning over like that, that could make sense. But the rest of it, I don't see it. I wish we could have gone along for the jury outing. That would have been so cool because I actually want to see the farm, even if it's through a screen. Like with Tucker's, I did a I found on YouTube, I found someone driving around Florida Keys, and I went and like did a virtual tour of the area to kind of wrap my head around what the area is that Tucker was in. And oh my gosh, they are really like that's upper class. That's big money there. I don't get that either. Only thing I've seen as an actual fact is that their law enforcement needs more training on how to do their job and how to process a crime scene. This is what breaks my brain. How many times? So, if I'm a defense attorney, I don't even have to be a well trained or good defense attorney. What's the first thing you do when you have a client involved in a crime? You go after the investigation. Is it not then logical that investigations get as much weight as the arrest? Because, officers want to do the arrest properly, otherwise, it's fruit of the poisonous tree. So, in my mind, I then think that you would want it to be as thorough where you've literally gone over it again and again. Where could I poke holes in this? If I were looking for an out, what are the things that juries might want to see? And then on top of that, if I'm the prosecutor, like maybe I've watched too much Law and Order, but if I'm the prosecutor, I'm going to be like, yo, I can't work with this. You're putting me in a bad spot. Because it all comes down to the prosecutor's name at the end of the day. Like, if you think of, I mean, it's a TV situation, but if you think of like in Law and Order, how many times Barbara will say, like, I can't take this, you have to have more. I just kind of presumed that that was loosely based on what happens in investigations. Also, like, I don't know if I have to have a specific thing to bring the chat. Like, I think I have to have software and whatnot. I'm gonna have to get hold of Recovery Addict and say, like, yo, I thought I got this, but I don't. Thought I understood it. Yes, exactly, James. The prosecutor has to meet the elements of the crime. So if I'm going out there and I'm going to put my name on this, I'm going to have to do press releases. I'm going to have to do interviews. I'm going to have to be the face of it. Then I want to know that my butt is covered. So I'm going to be really tough on the law enforcement, and I'm going to be tough at the point that I bring the charges, which they did way back then when it wasn't too late to go and find things. They could even have said, like, okay, so this interview with Daniel, I'm sorry, there's so many holes we could poke in this. It's just not a good idea. We need to somehow figure out how to get him again. Also, on the note of Daniel, before I forget, they can't get hold of him. They can't call him. They can't Zoom him. They have to go over to Mexico. But then he comes and testifies in court. How'd they get hold of him then? Anyway, I would have said, we're going to have to do this interview recorded. Whether he already has the information that they've given him or not, I would make it a second interview so that my butt is covered. And that interview would be so clean because it has to be hole free, I guess. Yeah, I wanna look like a hero or a fool depending on the investigation, and I'm not gonna be a fool. I'm gonna be the standout person, especially in a case like this if it is as seemingly political as it sounds. Like, I can't comment on that side of it because I don't know, and to the rest of us, it's very confusing the way it all works there. I hope you guys laughed at my pinned comment. I laughed, I thought it was funny. At least I get to use my on-air sign for once. I got it ages ago, and then I didn't really have a purpose for it. At the time, I was thinking of doing a podcast, am I the or, the Reddit thing, am I the but or ADHD? So I got it for that, but then I didn't vibe with the podcast. The sheriff's attitude is political, but this is what confuses me with the sheriff. So surely it would be people on the other side, on the Mexican side, that he would be winning favor with by doing what he's doing. So it feels like he doesn't know his audience because the people in his jurisdiction would be people annoyed with the border, right? Like, I would think. Very confusing. It also confuses me that sheriffs are elected because we could not have that here. Like, there was how do I word the unit? So the kind of stuff that they're saying Daniel was potentially involved in. So think of that. But here we had a unit to combat that here. And the first 6 arrests were within the unit. I don't think it would work because corruption would run free. As DEA. What is DEA again? Oh, wow. That's cool, James. So it must be so frustrating. Oh, okay. Got you on what DEA is. Oh, so maybe he was trying to like shake hands and kiss babies so that he could get the intel. James, it must absolutely break your brain then that this is the situation with the way it's been handled, because they could potentially, like, if we look at it, it could be a strong case. You also have the demographics of the jury in mind. You could sway a jury that way. But because the investigation was so bad, I mean, when I saw it and I heard like what he had texted to people, I was like, oh, this dude is super guilty. Like, he doesn't even know how R to an ace he is. Hey, Lil Miss, he doesn't even know how high in that he is, but that could be like a good driving force on the prosecutor's side. But for him to flip me to his side, like, that takes some work. That really, it's got to be bad for me to not agree after what I thought was going to be a very clear case. Also, is my mic volume okay? Because I'm a little bit, it's here, but I'm not super close. Here's another theory I was thinking. What if they were running these on the way across too, and Gabriel got scared and wanted to go back? Daniel wasn't having it and wound up shooting Gabriel. So I was thinking that there must have been something that Gabriel did. But another thing that I thought of, because so Cape Town can kind of be compared to Narcos in a fair amount of ways. And when one person on one side, something happens to one person on one side, then there's like a counter on the other side. So it's just like a war, essentially. And I wonder if there were warring groups on either side, and those two, it was like a, what is it even called? My entire job is being a writer and I cannot get to the words. And my other job was talking and I'm not getting the words. Um, Basically, it was like a, you took my person, I take your person, that kind of thing. I think it's a super interesting one, though. Genuinely thought I would be on the state side all along, like I was with JC. And I took heat for that, and I didn't mind. I was quite clear to me because we changed the constitution and we changed the order of rights and all of that. So it was a different perspective for me. But with this one, I just don't see it. Did anyone watch Wanda's testimony though? Because I definitely missed that, and that seemed to not go across well with the jury. That seemed to be really, that didn't go down well. Oh yeah, got you, Steve. And I mean, like we have a similar problem here. Obviously, well, I don't know if it's obvious because I don't know how people's geography is. My geography with the US is terrible, so I can't. Actually, my geography in the whole world is terrible. I can't expect people to know, but South Africa is bordered by other poorer, lesser developed countries. For example, Zim is one of the bordering countries, and so we have people crossing and bringing illicit things with, and some people are coming for a better life and some people are coming because they've got connections here. She wasn't having it. She did not want to be up there testifying against him. Against him? Why did they have her against him? Well, I suppose if she's subpoenaed, she doesn't have a choice. The thing is, so this is what's tricky, right? This is where they got me with the Apple River trial. Regardless of, if I were a witness, the best way that I would think to win the case is to just be me on both sides, not close up anything, not have a certain attitude. Obviously, it's easier said than done. Lawyers are trained to figure out how to get under people's skin and, you know, rile you up so that people can see the true you, that situation. I think I would try to just be honest, like Apple River trial, those kids, I wanted to like fly to the US and charge them myself. They were really so frustrating. Oh, is that on the thumbnail? The sheriff neighbor is a shady character. Yeah, that sheriff. I haven't watched that big super something. I have a feeling it's just gonna frustrate me. Oh yeah, Steve. I think they should have really. I. One of the cats just snored so loud. I don't know if you heard that. That was so cute. Um, with the Apple River trial, that deeply upset me. I have not felt so strongly about a verdict in a while, and that one really, really, really upset me. And those kids should have been charged. And in my opinion, Maddie should have been charged with inciting violence or whatever the charge would be. I think she was the key in how everything went down. And I think she knows that because her not wanting her testimony out there. But if it's the truth and the video is out there, what are you hiding from, girl? There's something not right. And I mean, like, I was speaking about why we don't have juries last night, and the Apple River trial is like the perfect example, like the perfect example. And when it first started, I was like, he does sound a little like he's from Eastern Europe, and that with the current tensions might not come across very well, and he might be put under the same stereotype, which is, violent, blah, 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 blah. And in a situation in South Africa, you wouldn't look at it through that lens at all, because you would have done many, many years as a lawyer, as a prosecutor. You would have to have spent some time, you're going to be in small court before you go further up. And also, all of your decisions will have to line up with our constitutional court, which I haven't had to speak about in a long time or know about in a long time. But essentially, post 94, our constitution was rewritten, and it now falls under Chapter 9. And Chapter 9 cannot be grouped together with the government. So that's basically like, they would be the whistleblowers. And that kind of means that a decision like Apple River, I would definitely think it would be somewhat unconstitutional. Demon puppy just opened my window. Oh my gosh, how? That is wild. Our cat was trying to open a door earlier because they're all indoor, and I had the door open a little bit, and I was sitting watching him, and he was like sticking his paw through, trying to figure out, like pushing it like as if we like the same we do it. And I was just waiting to jump because they've never been out. So if they get out, it could be a bad time for us because they scare easily as well. We can't have our windows open. We have a gate thing that they can see through. Just one judge deciding the verdict, or is there more than one? It would be one, but you could appeal. In the case of Oscar, which is like in the deep, deep archives of my brain, but it was one, and they appealed. I can't remember if the state appealed or if his team appealed, but essentially then his charges were upgraded. The whole trial happened again. Charges were upgraded, then landed up with a longer sentence. And then also with our parole system, it's a little stricter on the side of the victims' families. So also because of post 94, the victims' families in most cases have to okay parole, not say, I would like for you to not give parole, and then the person can be like, whatever you say doesn't matter. Yes, it's like a bench trial. So all the judges, but so imagine like with the witnesses, where you'd have the lawyer doing cross-examination and all of that, the judges ask step by step. So I was watching a trial called Jason Roeder. I'll put the name in chat because that judge is awesome. I actually DJ'd for her 13-year-old's birthday and accidentally played a swear. But she would stop the experts and be like, wait, you just said this, but this wouldn't make sense. Tucker Treehouse, yep. And that is also, that's where it's also tricky, because in Tucker's case, it would be a jury of his peers. Now, looking at Florida Keys, those aren't his peers. And you're kind of stuck, right? Like you get a certain number of vetoes. It's not like a guy living on the streets or in a warehouse, or they wouldn't be called up. So you've got a very rich area with someone who doesn't live that life judging on his life. And I don't think many people appreciate homelessness on a day-to-day. Like, it's kind of like it's more likely going to be an inconvenience, right? Like the area is being brought down by this and all of that. Have to try and cover the branding because apparently YouTube flags like names of certain things. I know Disney's one. If you just show it, like I went to Disneyland and that whole video got a copyright because I was showing Disneyland, no music, nothing, just pictures of. I also went back and started watching Jack in the Box, Beverly McCullum, because we share a surname, and I'm in a group on Facebook for the McCullum clan. And I mean, I'm never on Facebook, but I'm so tempted to ask where she fits in because it's not a massive clan. Like, there was a castle in Scotland. Some of the surname spelling was changed. That's why her surname and my surname aren't spelled the same, but we're part of the same clan. And it is very rare that it's Callum. So I think that there might be some like connection there. So I want to watch that one. Yeah, Steve, look, the family already does not have the best reputation because there were apparently in Scotland, there were two hills. And I really want to try and go to the castle when I'm there in May, but it's pretty far away from Edinburgh. There were two hills, and this family were constantly rivals. And they would go down into the valley and have a battle and then realize they were brothers. And that kind of sets the tone for the surname in the family. And then my mom's maiden name, they they were known as thieves, and a lot of them were sent to Australia as convicts. So that's fun. Um, Steve, I need recommendations if there's things that are like must see. It is a bucket list thing for me. I've always wanted to go. I've watched so many YouTube videos of people just walking around, showing things. And obviously, like I've just said, my whole heritage is Scottish up until the obvious colonialism. But that whole part that's my roots. Hatfields and McCoys. What's that? I think it was the McCallum and the Malcolm clan. They're part of the same clan and they were warring. Oh, this is another funny thing. One of the castles, they so my mom's maiden, the castle was abandoned when the convicts were shipped to Australia. And for many years after that, it was listed as an abandoned castle, and any family members could come forward and claim it. And nobody did. So it was bought privately. Now, my absolute dream would be to inherit a dusty old building filled with furniture and books and history and restore it, not modernize it, restore it back to its beautiful olden day glory. I'm sitting here in a third world country and there's like an entire castle that they wanted to give away. Oh, well, maybe it's like a normal thing. I guess family feuds are like the ultimate. Otherwise, Jerry Springer wouldn't have had a full career. Neither would the guy in the UK who got his show cancelled, Jimmy something. There was a DNA test and then it didn't go well. And someone decided to eliminate themselves from the game of life. Loch Lomond. So Argyle is apparently also somewhere in my lineage, but unfortunately, it was all really badly documented. And so we've been trying to build family trees and all of that for ages. I want to take one of those ancestry DNA, but I also don't because like it always scares me, especially like when you tick. Although I don't think I'd be scared of this. I think I would have a ball when you tick and then all of a sudden there's like, hey, this criminal case came up from whatever. Can we use your DNA? I'd be like, oh, yes. If I can be an investigator on this case, 100%. Anyway, this was supposed to be chat about crime, and I'm just talking about traveling. Although, to be fair, I just wanted to test out streaming just to see. I'm also trying to figure out, because I do enjoy vlogging and my channel is set up for vlogging, especially like travel vlogs, and then just being ADHD in the world, because I found that there was a lot of there's a gap in there. There's a lot of like videos about the normal things, I don't know if you have ADHD and that boring stuff, and no one just like living their life and showing like the frustrations. So that's kind of what I thought it wanted it to be. But I always come back to talking about true crime. And after the live last night, I was like, oh, actually, like it would be really fun to have a true crime side. So I'm still trying to figure out how I want to separate the two. Thanks, James. Yeah, it's quite fun. It is weird though, just sitting like talking to myself. I haven't done this in a very long time. Because during the panorama, I was still doing radio and I was remote. So I was sitting at home in my pajamas doing a radio show with no sign of life on the other side. Oh, also, what are your thoughts on them going over the weekend? I think it's absolutely a terrible idea. I think it should not be allowed. You're going to go home on Friday with this going through your mind. So let's use the legal argument. What would a reasonable person do? A reasonable person struggling to come to a decision where they have asked for help and they're not getting help. They are reasonably going to want to go on the internet and see if they can wrap their heads around it. That is such a bad idea. Exactly. Accidentally saw something online. Ugh. Why separate it? Check out true crime in the areas you travel to. Ooh, that's a good idea. I know Scotland has a lot of haunted house tours, but that's not my vibe. Maybe they'll also have like wasn't Jack the Ripper around Edinburgh fair amount at one stage? I wanted to do a crime tour in, I think it was France. And then I decided after a few, yeah, he was in London, but I'm sure he had a few victims in Edinburgh. I decided after a few trips with an Uber and the people telling me like, yeah, some of these areas are a bit dodgy. I was like, I don't think that my tiny little self should be going on crime tours, because then I will, rule number one, never become the story. That's something any newsroom will tell you. Never become the story, but if you are going to, make it a good one. Anyway, back to the weekend jury thing. I just don't think it's a good idea. I think it's okay in the early stages when you haven't heard all the information, but let's remember as well, these jurors were supposed to be there for 2 weeks. They were then there for 3 weeks. One of them, I don't know if it was an alternate that then landed up not having to deliberate over the weekend. But now you're going back to work on Monday. And what I really don't like is that as the jury, you essentially have to try flip a person to the other side. I don't like that at all, because that's not playing nice. That should not happen, because I then get concerned that they're going to go, okay, well, let's go for lessers because, at least it'll end. If you made them come in over the weekend, do you think the verdict would be forced? Well, that's what I was worried about yesterday. I was worried that the way he put it, so when he said, or you can come back over the weekend, I think if they had given the option to, you can go back and try once again, and, if you can't reach a verdict, then it's hung. I think that they may have just gone and said, look, we're not gonna agree to this. Let's go back, like they did in Tucker. Isn't coercion a crime? Well, if you have a jury, apparently not. I think that it's a really bad idea to try and encourage a hung jury to flip. I don't agree with it at all. Because you have to think of peer pressure as well. So nobody wants to come back. And then there's going to be, without a doubt, there's going to be emotion coming into it. Like, say 7 are on guilty and 1 is on not guilty. Those 7 can essentially bully the 1, like, oh, but there is, somebody died, there's a victim in this, you have to. And then either they'll go for lessers or they'll flip to guilty. That's not fair. They just want to come to an end of the deliberation. So the choices are not great. I don't like it at all. I also don't like them. I understand having to time box trials, but I don't like how they split it in this case. I think it would be much smarter to say, when they start the trial, defense, you get a week. Prosecution, you get a week. Divide it up as you will. Lessers seem like a reach to me. If you think you have enough to charge him with first-degree murder, then prove the first degree and don't just hope for a participation trophy. And we know with the Apple River trial, if they didn't have lessers, I can almost bet my life on this. If they didn't have lessers, he would have been not guilty. I think they had to charge him, they had to find him guilty with something so that the victims' families didn't feel bad. Because you're sitting there, you're watching the family, you're taking in the emotion, you're seeing mothers, and like, they're playing on your emotions. You're going to feel like someone has to pay. Which is also kind of where I would prefer a bench trial like we have, because so I think there's a really good correlation between journalists and lawyers / going into the legal system, where you have to almost like shut down any human part of you while you do the work. So like when I have to go into, hey Evie, when I have to go into journalism mode, I literally can't. It's not people, it's numbers, it's facts. There's no like, oh, hey, Samantha. Thank you so much, guys. I thought I'd test it out and just add a funny comment about CSI level. So when I'm in journalism mindset, every story I read, everything I report on, it cannot actually get to me. And in the early days when I moved up ranks into a basically national broadcaster level. So the highest that I could technically get to without going to a private station. Before I moved, when I was in the early days, it was starting to slowly, like secondary trauma was starting to kick in. And I saw a story about a reporter in the US or a cameraman went and made himself the story and just made sure he did it well, essentially. And I thought, oh, yeah, I can relate to that guy. And then I was like, oh, step back. And then I had a lot of mentorship to not let my feelings come into what I'm working on. And I think lawyers have to do the same. And you can't actually let the emotions drive you any certain way. So if you're thinking of a courtroom where there's a mother crying, etc., and then you've got 12 people who don't know, who haven't been taught, it's not like you just wake up one day and you're objective. It takes like a lot of training and a lot of thinking. You've got 12 people who haven't had that training, who don't know how to think like that. You're playing on their emotions and they're making an emotional decision instead of a logical decision. And then it's like the whole thing of justice for one person shouldn't be injustice for the other person. But the other person doesn't have family members crying and children taken from them. Like, it doesn't play out well for me at all. Anyway, thank you for listening to my rant. I think the TLDR is that a judge would be better at deciding when it comes to emotional things like Apple River and like this. I don't agree with using people's feelings to flip a verdict. Thank you. Not like you guys can do anything anyway. You can't interrupt me because I don't know how to bring anyone on stream. I should have figured that out first, and then I could have just said like, let's have a collaborative stream, because then I would still know how it works and what times are good and whatever. Oh yeah, you could leave. That is true. So Evie, with the biased judge, then you would essentially, we have had situations like that, and you keep taking it up the court system. So there is the you'd appear in the regional court. So Cape Town is like, I think the Western Cape, which is where I live, is about the same size as England. So all the different counties have a small court. And then from there, it moves up to the High Court. And then from there, it could move up to the Supreme Court. And then it could go to the Constitutional Court. So in some way, it would land up going to different judges. And because of the country's history, it is like very much scrutinized a lot more. And also, we have a really high crime rate and a lot of other things playing in. So there's a lot of eyes on certain cases. What's really cool, though, is if newsrooms are allowed in the court, this is one thing I thought like could be done so well with live trials in the US. So there's a missing child here called Jocelyn Smith. Nice little say it, don't spray it. And I was watching the first court appearance for the people charged. One of them was her mother, and the other one was her mother's boyfriend. And what they let you do is they let you, as the news station, hook up your mics to the judge, to the lawyers. So you actually get newsroom or reporter level sound, video, etc. Yeah, Evie, it is very much, and it all comes down to Chapter 9, our Chapter 9 institution, which is separate from the government, which is according to the Constitution, and the Constitution was rewritten post-apartheid to try and make it to try and right the wrongs, essentially. It always goes back to one of the parents or caregivers. Yep. I was actually writing a book about, can I say the word on YouTube? I don't even know. I'm trying to think of a YouTube friendly way. So the transport of people. I was writing a book on that, and I did a lot of research, and it is actually majority family members. Evie, I also find it interesting how the UK legal system works, and especially with the lack of media interests me a lot. I think that's very, very strange, but I guess understandable. I also think that this is what broke my brain. I always thought that UK news was level and did well in comparison to some others. But I thought it was pretty decent until I found out. Now, this would never fly here. This is one of the things that are strong in the Constitution. The media outlets have to be transparent. Like there's a thing called the SABC 8. That's one of the stations I worked for. They lost their lives, those journalists, some of them. Anyway, because they would not show something on the news, and we have an editors forum that then stands up for them, and lawyers and all of that. But one thing I thought was so weird is that with the UK media, they have to get approval on stories relating to the monarchy. How Imagine not being able to report on essentially part of the government system without approval. Like, that just breaks my brain. Yeah, I do need a thesaurus for sure. That's the thing, Evie. I don't like it. I don't like it. Like, I can actually remember the entire thing. The way that our media is balanced is news that is accurate, comment that is fair, programming that is not harmful to children, does not amount to hate speech or explicit three-letter word. And that is what everything has to be based on. So news that is accurate being the first. Thank you, 6-volt bus. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend. Yeah, Evie, I don't get the hate with Meghan. I'm not anti-Meghan at all. And Harry, I mean, the first royal to actually go and serve in an army. Like, they should have backed him better. Also, I did find it kind of interesting how quickly the national anthem was changed to King. Like, oh, well, first one didn't work out. Switch over to King now. All good. I shouldn't have said that so, like, nonchalant, but you know my vibe. Yes, agree, Evie, agree. Also, like, has anyone pointed out that keeping the bloodline pure could land up with some... It's a game the whole family can play. Bad idea. Yes, that's it. Yes, yes, you guys got me. No one else wants to keep it in the family. Not a good idea. Maybe that's why it's a little questionable at times. People with dogs, do you not hear your dogs bark? Genuine question. Because some of our neighbors have dogs that bark, and I just don't understand how they don't hear it and how it doesn't annoy them. I don't know if you can hear it right now, but it's doing like an annoying little yap. I think I should figure out how I can... Oh, thank goodness. It's because I'm using the mic I used for audiobooks and radio, so at least it tends to cancel it out a bit. I think I should figure out how to watch trials without getting struck. Evie, it must do your head in because you're also ADHD, right? Oh, yeah. That's the thing. If they're vocal, I know it's difficult. Like, I get it. But also, I'm a lot more understanding if someone is like, if I hear it and then I hear them come and say, like, hey, stop it. But there was a stage where the dog was going nonstop. And then we would get security to phone them. And then it would stop. They would have closed their windows. The dog's outside, they're inside. They closed their windows. And then security would phone them, and all of a sudden the dog would go inside. So you closed your windows so that you couldn't hear it, but left us with it. Like, what is happening? Also, I'm really overheating in this, and I didn't think of that. How did the rest of the stream go last night? I had to go to bed. I don't know how many people stuck around. Thank you. Apparently it's from a UK brand. Wednesday's goal? Can't remember. Oh, you can't see that at all. Yeah, Wednesday's goal. I got it on sale for like, what would it be in pounds? £3, maybe less. I haven't actually shopped any of their stuff. I take full advantage of Primark whenever I'm in the UK or Europe, though. Oh, wow, Steve, is it not uncomfortable for the dog? Because like, it's not its fault. The owners don't care, you know? We even had the SPCA out at one stage because they were leaving the dog outside barking when it was raining. Oh, yeah. I figured there might be quite a lot of politics. I kind of dipped out at the right time. I generally have a pretty good read on personalities and where I need to dip. And I had a feeling it was, at one stage, it was going to get a bit tricky. Hey, Bug Dugger. Yeah, that's the thing, Steve. At the end of the day, I feel sorry for the dog. It's the owner I have a problem with. The thing is that also, like, it's tricky because, for example, if I'm recording and it's going high pitch, then it's hard not to resent the dog, like, oh my goodness. I don't know what that sound was. Piano creaking, maybe. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Evie, got you. I thought that might happen. That's always a gamble when you have a lot of different voices and also people who maybe aren't used to the channel, Like most of us get along well. And when there are things leaning in any political way, it's shut down really easily and really quickly. But yeah, yeah, that's the thing, Steve. Like if I could hear them trying, and also like if it wasn't like they're having fun. Thanks so much, James. It was great chatting to you. We can definitely try StreamYard with a law enforcement related drill sometime, if you like. Um, what was I saying again? Oh yeah, I I was concerned about it more than myself, and it was frustrating me. And it was kind of like a win-win situation if it had a bit of place to be and wasn't sitting in the rain, and also if I could record in peace, because an audiobook is like, it has to be so silent that you can hear every single breath I take. That's kind of the level of silent. Otherwise, the platforms don't accept it. More new people joining StreamYard than actual watchers. Yeah, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think like um especially with channel promotion, like I explicitly didn't want to be like, follow me, follow me, follow me, follow me, because I just genuinely enjoy hanging out there. And I don't want like, I'm not advertising. Um, but I think it was an easy way to get a couple of extra people, I got 50 subscribers, like it was awesome. I'm really stoked, but I certainly didn't join with that intent. Lived in a townhouse with a neighbor behind me with a grandchild who tormented my dog and made him bark. Oh my gosh. No. How that, yeah. I had a friend who had kids and we don't have, like, it's a lot less normal to have these yeah, like some people do, but it's very regulated and it's quite hard to get a license and all of that. But you can have like airsoft BB guns, that kind of thing. Had a friend whose cat encountered a kid playing with one and landed up essentially having a little cat wheelchair. Terrible. Yeah, it did feel like a way to gain followers. And there will always like this is also why I stopped playing the social media game, because like when I was in radio, you'd go to an event and it would be like, try to get as many photos with people with higher following, etc., etc., just like constantly trying to get yourself out there, get yourself out there, get yourself out there. And you're like just pushing it so hard that people are almost like, I don't want to play that game. No, thank you. Oh my gosh. Do you know what the thing is? People don't realize that, like, I am a meticulous note and video taker. If I see something happening, I am documenting it with timestamps and everything. And from there, I'm also going to know all the avenues. Yep, I will have receipts. I have an entire Google Photos like album of that one dog barking and the times and everything. Like it all links up so that when you have to bring it up, it's like, well, here you go. You listen to this on repeat. Yeah, I would also move away from people if I could, but it's not really safe here. And also I need I might be 33, but like I want my mommy always. My mom's like 10 minutes away from me. I couldn't be further. That's a good idea. Lean forward as I swallow. Because I mean, everybody loves the sound of people swallowing, right? That could get taken the wrong way. It's not what I meant. I need to cut my fringe ASAP. Evie, you know, if there's going to be jokes to be had, it'll always be me taking one step over the line and then being like, oops, whoops. Let's walk it back. Let's walk it back. But also, like, I made my career off being quick with innuendos. So it's hard to like not do that. In your endo. What do you mean? Yeah. So the key is innuendo, not the actual thing. You know? Like sometimes I'll oh yeah. Got it, Evie. Sometimes I will be like, oh, that's not the innuendo, that's the actual thing. But for the most part, I try to stick to innuendos. Because I mean, like, we were on that same what I said earlier of news that is accurate, comment that is fair, programming that is not harmful to children. We had to play by that all the time. And you're live, so you can't just like take it back. It's not like a comment you can delete. So in general, I got really good at innuendos because that's the way my brain thinks, and I had to say it somehow. Yeah, Lilmas, that's the thing. Like, I genuinely don't mind if the person is trying. Like, if you're trying and that's just the dog's personality or whatever, then it's okay. But also, like, if you leave them all day and you go to work, what do you think's going to happen? Our yards are small. Like, I'd imagine compared to the US, our yard is probably like a pavement. So there's not much that they can do during the day. You know, they're not. Thank you, Lil Miss. Chatty friend. Yeah. You also need to get YouTube Premium. It helps so much with that because you can go between things. I probably won't hang out that much longer because I really need to have a wee. Oh, yeah, yeah. Steve, me too. And then I got an ADHD diagnosis, and I was like, "Oh, that makes sense. Inappropriate. Yeah, tick that box. Got full marks on that test. No others. Didn't get full marks in anything else. But I was right up there, 18 out of 18 on the assessment. I don't know how either, Evie. I'm like it's amazing I've made it 1 hour, 5 minutes, and I dashed before. It's it's not, I don't know how. We used to joke that because like sometimes things will happen where like it has happened before where the building, like while you're doing radio, the building might go into lockdown and then you're stuck there. And people used to joke about a bottle under the table. So there's that. Not convenient for women though. Wow, this live has turned to a whole nother level. Oh yeah, same. But Evie, is it worse for you? Like, are you medicated or unmedicated? Because I feel like I hey Zimmy, good to see you. Yeah, Steve, that's the thing as well. It's easier to hold. For us, it's not. But I definitely like different medications have different side effects. And like when I was on Ritalin, because my mouth was constantly dry, I was constantly trying to stop that from happening. And so it was just like all day, like drinking liquids, not drinking liquids. I'm really trying to not make this fall apart, but I guess as long as it doesn't go to like, oopsie, sorry. As long as it doesn't go to YouTube being like, whoa. Was a pilot. Oh, yes. How? That I can't imagine. Yeah, Evie, I'm on Vyvanse now, which I think is called Elevance in the US, and it's definitely better. But the YouTube principal's office, yeah. That's even with my vlogs, I have to be like, okay, just put a filter on for a bit. I would love to just be normal, just speak. But especially in the beginning, like, so what happens is YouTube puts you in the naughty corner. Once they put you in the naughty corner once, so breaking guidelines is like copyright's not so bad. But once you get flagged for breaking guidelines, they're like stricter on you. So, for example, with the true crime content that I work on, we got a naughty corner, and then all of a sudden got more and more and more and more and more. Well, Ivan streams, I think I actually didn't check if his channel is monetized, but he's over 1,000 now, so he might be. But I would imagine a lot of those streams, the monetization doesn't happen. Hey, Kim. This is so cool. It's like familiar names. I was also worried that like I was gonna get trolls because I was watching I watch Robert Welsh. He's a makeup person. Love him. Evie watches him too now. But there were people coming in, and he is gay. And there are people coming in just being like, "Are you gay? Are you gay? Are you gay? Why are you gay? You need to not be gay." And I was like, that's awkward. That thankfully didn't happen. I think I could be on the ADHD spectrum, but I'm not diagnosed. Also highly sensitive, but this could have many causes. Zimmy, 100%. I did consider that because I am definitely a highly sensitive person. Some of it trauma related, some of it is like sensory related. But actually, the thing that made my psychiatrist do the diagnosis was my inability to find the line with drinking and other things. Like, I always had to go further than everyone else. Like, at one stage, I would literally be like, more, 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 more. Like a good night out, I would always be saying, more, 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 more. I was on Elevance. There was a shortage. Yes, the shortage. So I decided not to change. because there was a shortage. Then it came back and I'm like, amazing, happy to try it now. Ask the doctor, like, are you sure there's no shortage? Fast forward, I'm increasing the dose as I go along and I reach 75 and the pharmacy is like, no, we don't have stock of that. The doctors know this. And I'm like, okay, but now I'm on this and I'm used to this and I like this. I still feel like me because one thing about the others is like it dulls my creativity and I don't like that. Like it was almost like I was thinking in slow-mo with creative stuff. So my jokes weren't as like whatever. So already reached a shortage issue. Adderall extended release. I don't actually know if we even have Adderall extended release, to be honest. But Adderall is a different makeup, right? It deals with the dopamine. I think it deals with the dopamine deficiency over the stimulation. You want to get angry, watch the Netflix thing about being medicated for ADHD. Whew, I was raging. Trauma is such an interesting field. I've never considered this, but it's very broad nowadays. Yep. So I've been pretty open in chats about like having childhood trauma, but basically if you grew up with eggshell feelings, then like walking on eggshell feelings, then sensory is a big one. 4 months without meds. That's the thing. Like I was fine without it, but now that I know that I don't have to be at that level, it doesn't make sense for me to be there, you know? Yeah, and going down doses feels a little like unnecessary, you know? If it's not working, why am I taking it? The Netflix series. Oh, good question. I wish Netflix kept your watch history. What would they have called it? Let's say Adderall. Take your pills. Oh, that made me so angry. And they say things like people just take them for the high and yeah, maybe some, but like seriously, some of us scientifically have different brains. It is science. And like no, focusing harder or trying harder is not going to help me. I would literally need a lobotomy. But thank you for offering. Yes, exactly, Evian. That's kind of like at one stage I tried Ritalin and I felt nothing. And I am super blunt with like doctors. I don't bother filtering myself. Like I just said to the doctor, yeah, I took a Ritalin once and did nothing. And she's like, yeah, I didn't think it would. I could tell already. Oh, ADHD is a trend now. Oh, do you know what? Here's the double whammy. I have ADHD and I have OCD, like diagnosed. And when people say, oh, I'm a little bit OCD, I'm like, no, 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 no. Here's what it actually looks like. I watched a video on YouTube about a woman who is blind, and then all of a sudden convinced myself that I was not going to be able to see later in life. From nowhere, someone leaves the house, and I'm absolutely sure they're not going to come back and I won't see them again, and my brain spirals. Yes, Steve, that's exactly it. And when I take a higher dose, I feel not right. It's not fun. Like Kim, the thing is once you have ADHD, you can just see others. Exactly. Exactly. And it can sometimes be just like something bothers me, like seeing a picture hanging skew can I can fixate on that, you know? I can really like need need to fix it, but it's not like that's like a small thing. That's not part of like the quirky thing, you know? Like that's cute and it would be nice if that's all it was. Yeah, and I think getting diagnosed in the US is tough as far as I know. Yeah, women weren't even tested from the 70s, I think. And I spent a fair amount of my childhood in Zim, and they don't test at all. It's not a thing there. And that's when it was most obvious. Like if I look at all my school reports, I'm just like, how could no one see this? It was so obvious. I used to tell the teachers that I I just couldn't hold what I needed to say in. It was bursting out of me. Like, hello, that's classic ADHD. Oh yeah. So it's the same here. A psychologist can work with you, but they can't diagnose you. Yeah. And I mean, like, that's the thing as well, Zimi, is my brother has ADHD inattentive. So he would technically be ADD. And so he would never have shown up if it was the old diagnosis. Even I think as well, like, it would be nice if the assessments were easier to get there as well. I'm pretty surprised that the UK is quite behind in comparison to here with that. I see a lot of people saying that they did their assessment, but their mom had to fill something out and they're adults and their moms just don't believe in ADHD. That would upset me. I know, because one of my parents doesn't really believe in it, I guess. Like if you don't believe in ADHD, you can't believe in cancer either, right? And Steve, you can be sitting at your desk and it'll reach the end of the day, but just nothing's completed. I take my meds first thing when I wake up. Sometimes I'll even forget my anti-anxiety because I just take the first one and I'm like, okay, let me give it a bit of time. And I will feel like when the dose was low, I would get to the end of the day and I would have been at my desk and I would have been doing things like work-related things. And I would just be like, what did I do all day? I've been sitting here. My laptop's been open. I've been on Trello and, I've been checking all of the things I need to check. I've been interacting. Like, where's the work? Why is it not finished? What did I do? They questioned if they had ADHD too. That's so lucky because I'm in ADHD woman Reddit, and a lot of people have had their mom say, nope. And then they have to start the whole thing again, and it takes like 18 months. When I had the psychiatrist appointments here, parents don't get contacted at all. I'm an adult, it's none of their business, especially if you consider that some of the things that your psychiatrist is looking for could come from your childhood. Like, oh my gosh, Evie. I won't say my Reddit name because I tend to try to keep it like separate so that I can lurk in places. Yeah, I think my psychiatrist asked me like family history because I was originally misdiagnosed as bipolar, put on bipolar meds, went off the rails. And then I changed psychiatrists, but all they asked was family history, and no one in my family even had to back it up because they shouldn't. I'm an adult. I'm going to have to pick a more comfortable chair next time. Ooh, that jumped very quickly. Oh, Steve, 100%. Okay, I currently don't have any paintings on the go. Oh, no, actually I do. I've got 2 paintings on the go. I am learning piano. I'm redoing my office. Um, I have a job. I have my vlog channel. Sometimes I'm into plants, and when I'm into plants, I went from 3 to 140, literally. And sometimes I'm into writing. So I wrote a novel, but I wrote the entire thing, but I never got to stage 2, got bored of it. I've brainstormed podcasts. I am sometimes into, oh, I'll read a book, but like in one day or nothing. It's either or. There's no in between. Um, it's like my hyper focus jumps around so much. Not to get political here, but is there any correlation between all these newer uh, diagnostics and all the vax they dole out since the 60s? Kim, I don't think so, because it would be weird given there's a lot of different ones. So, like, even just with South Africa and Zim, there were different vaccines given out. And so, for example, I moved there when I was 7 or 8, and my brother started school there. So we have different vaccines, and we both still have ADHD. I just want to move my chair back a bit. Oh yeah, Steve, 100%. I think like the greatest thing is this year I started doing piano and dancing, and my piano teacher also has ADHD, and I walked in with my head in my hands the one day and was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't practice because I've been into painting this week. And she was like, that's okay, piano will come back around. You'll want to play again, doesn't matter. And I was like completely taken aback. What do you mean I don't have to stick to one thing? This is so weird. Oh, that's the other thing, I was really into woodwork. So I currently have a miter saw, a jigsaw, a drill. What else did I get? An electric sander, and I started building a bench, and I was like absolutely killing it. And then all of a sudden, I just didn't feel like being in the garage anymore, and now the bench sits, not made. Thanks, Kim. It's been so nice having people here from Recovery Addicts channel, because at least it's like people I know, like people I spend every day with. You know that dog is still barking. We're on 1 hour 22. It only has 3 minutes to bark every 30 minutes before it's illegal. I'm a bit of a Karen, you know. I have to admit. Also, interesting thing about ADHD that they're looking into is the need for justice. How did they word it? It was so good. It was something along the lines of like you cannot let something go if it's unjust. And that is 1,000,000% me. That is what got me into journalism. That is what brings me to true crime. Like, things have to be just, and I will not be able to let it go. Yeah, Evie, I was kind of lucky though, because I was already working remote. So, and then also I was a key worker. So I was still going into studio, and I was doing TV at the time. So I was going to the TV station. So I thankfully, justice sensitivity, pretty much. I thankfully was still like out and about. But what I did realize, because we went into lockdown like before my 30th birthday, and 29 to 30, I had mad crisis. Like, I'm going to be 30. I don't have kids. We don't have a house. We don't, all of these things. I don't know what I'm doing with my job and my career, and what am I going to do? Who am I going to be? I don't have hobbies. Spiraled. I was moving off the bipolar meds. So a lot of it was also just like medication, not just me going crazy. But then when I reached 30, I just didn't care. Could not care less. And every year I care a little less and less. Like, I'm fine wearing a cheap jersey. Oh yeah. I actually enjoyed the panoramic. Yes, Evie, literally my quarter life crisis was the breaking point to my diagnosis because I had to stop drinking. And that's when I had to also go to the psychiatrist. Quit my job in February, completely clueless now. What do you do, Zimi? Maybe there's something freelance you can tinker around with. I loved being freelance because I didn't have to do the same thing every day. And I could choose, like, this week I'm hyper focused on crime. Next week I might be hyper focused on, I don't know, I wrote a bunch of creative writing at one stage, like editing books, and like could just change it, do some voiceovers. Someone used my voice in a song. I never found the song though. Just my speaking voice because I can't sing. That'll be next year's hyperfocus. Also, another ADHD thing that I didn't know was an ADHD thing was not being able to sit in a chair properly. Ren's music. Who's that? I think I need to find that. It's actually the pitch that does my head in. It's so high pitched. Studied sociology, retail for 5 years, took a course in HR, creative, hate sitting in an office. I think you could easily be a proofreader, editor, writer. Like with Grammarly, a lot of that is just knowing how to use the tools. Like people get super upset about AI doing things, but like the channels I work for, we just lean into it. I use ChatGPT to help me all the time. Like if I write a crime story, I'll put it into ChatGPT and say, is there anything here that is could be sensational, could be taken the wrong way? Is there anything that's confusing? And then I use it to be my feedback, basically. Bug Dugger, is that with ADHD? Like a lot of it, obviously, like medication helps, but a lot of it's also figuring out some loopholes. So, for example, like one of the most painful things is malls because the lights are so bright and the noise is so loud. I figured out that if I take earphones and I listen to a podcast or something while I'm shopping, it's actually so much easier. Also, if you're in the US, you can get loops, and loops are apparently amazing because you can cancel out certain noises, you can hone in on certain noises. Yes, Evie, exactly. Like, why is the grass green? Why is the sky blue? There's also another cool one called Goblin Tools. Goblin Tools is really cool for ADHD and breaking down tasks. Like I asked it, I said, I've written the first draft of my novel. What do I need to do now? And it gave me all the steps. I was so stoked. I didn't do anything with it, but it was cool. Yeah, Bug Dug the loops, but the thing that I'm seeing, because obviously like part of ADHD is losing everything. You must get the thing that connects them so you can have them around your neck. But you can adapt them so like if you're in a restaurant, you can switch it so that you hear the person who's talking rather than the background noise. Yes. And to unspicy it, because like I definitely get told I'm blunt too many times. Which was fine when I was in news, because news editors are like the most brutal people you'll ever meet. Like they will straight up tell you that you are the worst writer they've ever seen or read or whatever. They're blunt. So it was fine when I was doing that, but the rest of the world doesn't really appreciate it so much. 27, can't make them, but I can sure try. Well, I think the thing is, if you Does he have TikTok? Because it's a trend on TikTok. I could use that angle. Ear cups. Oh, I wonder if we get those here. Let me just do a quick Google. Oh, he doesn't have TikTok? It'll be on Instagram in about a year. Also, it's funny that that's the name Zimmy because that's our presiding party. Oh, I see they say sleep comfortable. No, we don't get them. We don't have Amazon. Sorry, we don't have Amazon here, so. Oh, he has Reddit? Well, then he'll probably know about it. Oh, yeah, Zimmy, you're meaning headphones. Got you. I don't know where they are. They're Soundcore. They're pretty decent. The ear cup party. Is that when everyone's like on the phone? Yeah, Evie, it also does take time, but I feel like once you find the community, then you're like, oh, these are my people. I feel normal here. And then it's easier. Oh, no. ANC. ANC is the African National Congress. They are the political party. Nelson Mandela was part of the ANC. There's like 3 South Africans that people know everywhere. Nelson Mandela, Trevor Noah, and Elon Musk. And if we could take out the third one as known everywhere and just let him be American, that would be great. We don't claim him. Yeah, Oscar. Yeah, we don't want to claim him either. Yeah, Evie, same. I realize, although I have a friend that we co-work, we work in different fields and all of that, but we often get together and work at the same time so that there's like just someone to focus with. And she is the most neurotypical person I've ever met. Like, she can literally get up, make a cup of tea, and come back to what she was doing. She doesn't literally does not get distracted. She can get up, go to the bathroom, come back to what she was doing. We can have a conversation and she'll get straight back into work. I cannot. Focus Mate is also body doubling. And that was pretty cool. But for my time zone, there were less and less people on. Evie, thankfully, she studied psychology and she gets me, especially my not enjoying people. I know, Steve, it blew my mind. I couldn't understand it. I literally said to her, like, I'm basically studying what you're doing because I cannot imagine a world where you don't stop and do a million things along the way. Like, I will get up, make coffee, go, oh yeah, I wanted to do this thing. Walk past the piano, be like, I wonder if I can play this on piano. And then an hour later be like, oh, I was supposed to be doing this thing. And then I'm back to the other thing. And then I should have worn headphones so I don't hear this dog. Also, like, I don't need to hear anything because I'm not talking to anyone. Duh. No, I haven't barked back, but I do have a funny story. So my best friend from varsity lives in London, and one night she phoned me at like 2 a.m. and she was like, Vix, I'm trying to get back into the house, but there's a fox here. And she was well liquored. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And one was like, bark at it. So we were listening to her on speakerphone while she was barking at a fox. It was super funny. Just messaging Fawn to say the dog's been barking for 1 hour, 34 minutes. Yeah, it was hilarious. And then I saw one when I was in London, came flying past me. They look so cute. don't understand why they have to be so feisty. Although I relate. Because I'm like small and then a little bit feisty too. I know I said it like 34 minutes ago, but I'm probably going to have to jump off soon because otherwise I'm going to need to clean up a puddle. So much for talking trial. I think I spoke about it a whole like 30 minutes. I haven't heard them screech. Will I see any in Edinburgh? They are so, so cute. Thanks, Evie. I thought I'd try it out on a day that is not at the same time as. We'll wait till you're back. It's easier to test this out when it's not at the same time as Brandy or Recovery Addict, because I also don't want to be like, I don't want to be stepping on people's toes or like, I just want to do my thing. Aren't coyotes like even more dangerous than foxes? I watched this YouTuber who does DIY, and she had a coyote in her garden. Where does she live? She lives in LA, maybe. And it was going to eat her dog. Oh my gosh. Sounds like a woman in pain. I'd be the person like reporting it all the time because I can't do bystander effect. I'd rather like phone emergency services for something they know about. I don't get why they're so cute if they don't want to be hugged. Could say the same thing about me, actually. Maybe I'm more of a fox than a cat. Foxy lady. Also, I'm a redhead, so I guess it would make sense. Because I'm like 1.57 meters, so I'm not tall. And I can tell you where to be if I need to. I don't think I can hold much longer. I think I'm going to have to say goodbye. Oh, I don't even want to watch them because then I'm going to want one. I was stuck on TikTok in a TikTok loop of bears, people who feed bears, and then the parents drop the bears off. And I'm just like, oh, they look so cute. Evie, you're short as well. 10 centimeters, I think, taller than me. But I was like normal height in the UK. I was pretty stoked because I'm not normal height here. I'm very short here. I think average height here is probably closer to 1.7 meters. Makes sense though, Evie, because that's my roots. Whereas a lot of people here have more Dutch, German, yeah, I'd say probably Dutch and German roots. 1.6, 1.52. Oh, wow, Simi. So you're only 3 centimeters taller than me. Okay. For real, though, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much. It's been so fun. And I'm so glad that I wasn't just here by myself. Bug Dugger, I'm so stoked, fun-sized. I'll do this again, probably when it is not at the same time as other people. Maybe a Saturday again. I'll see. But thank you. You guys have been so fun. And I can't believe I actually sat here for 1 hour 40 and chatted. That was awesome. Bye.